Welcome back to another episode of the Entry for One podcast. I'm your host, Jose Hernandez, and on this episode, we will be reviewing and discussing The Nun, directed by Corin Hardy. On this episode, we're joined by Aaron Cruz.
Hey, thanks for having me back. How y'all doing?
So, with The Nun, this is kind of the prequels of all prequels. We've had the Conjuring series, the sequel to the Conjuring, Annabelle 2, which was the prequel, and then The Nun being the prequel to that. The Nun's basically about a priest that hears about a nun that commits suicide at a church in Romania. Being asked by the Vatican to go investigate that, he will also encounter the kind of evil force that has taken the shape of the nun and kind of try to get that situated and holy. With this movie, it opened this past weekend, with a budget of about 22 million, and right now it's sitting about 62 million domestically, and it's already at 141 million worldwide, it says a lot about horror movies in this industry and how well they do, no matter how good or bad they look in a trailer.
Yeah, seriously.
So for the Conjuring universe, it doesn't look like they're gonna be stopping anytime soon. They'll probably come up with another prequel to The Nun, and we'll get the I don't know, some type of prequel to this. I'm sure they'll think of something.
Yeah, I mean they have to. It wasn't necessarily left open ended, but yeah, I don't know. I felt it didn't do any justice to the trilogy that they got going, or the series. I don't think it did any justice to it.
Yeah, it felt very different. And what's interesting about that is that this one has a higher budget comparing it to Annabelle 2, and it even has a higher budget than the first Conjuring. And when you compare those two movies, especially the first Conjuring to this movie, I mean, it just looks and feels completely different.
Now, I mean, could it be the director choice maybe?
It would definitely be director. I believe James Wan did the first Conjuring. He directed that. Yeah, directed by Wan, and I believe he even did the second one. Yeah, he did the second one, and then he let Annabelle and an Annabelle 2 be directed by someone else. While Wan still keeping the production of this kind of universe he's created. But yeah, it'd definitely be the director, I'd say. Um, I never really, I didn't watch Annabelle or Annabelle 2. Did you ever check them out?
I did, man. They were both intense and suspenseful. That's why I'm kind of, I look at The Nun. And I don't like scary movies. I go for the girls. Like you wanna go on a first date, you bring your girl, and you get an excuse to hold her or something. But this movie just had me falling asleep, bro. Like it wasn't suspenseful. It was missing that intensity that the other movies have brought us. So I don't know what's up.
Yeah, I mean, when looking at a horror movie, I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, is that once a movie decides to expand and do sequels, and then eventually do prequels after the sequels, it kind of gets kind of repetitive,
Mm-hmm.
and it no longer has that kind of quote unquote original feeling that you got from the maybe first two movies inside of that world that they've created. So when I saw that they were coming out with, um, Annabelle and Annabelle 2, although Annabelle did come out before The Conjuring 2, I kind of just like the storyline that they were building off of The Conjuring rather than, oh, maybe we should now do a prequel to some of the things that were in our original story. Um, with the Nun, I mean, I just not much else what was out this past weekend. But with the new horror movie, it was, I think, something we had to at least talk about with its pretty good success and how well horror movies do at the box office.
Yep. No matter what, right? Guaranteed money, easy money.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, I see why studios do this. It's pretty obvious, these movies make a lot of money at the box office. A lot. Again, no matter how high or low the budget is, it's usually going to be low for a horror film. They will make that money back, unless it's like a really bad, like it's
Terrible. Like, yeah.
Redbox territory, not even gets to the streaming services.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, with the Nun, with your point, I mean, what are your full thoughts on the movie?
Oh, so I don't like horror movies as it is. I don't like being suspended in suspense. But I noticed there was a different kind of feel to the movie. I thought the character list was kind of blah. They didn't really have a lot of background detail on them. We find this priest who comes into the scenario, and then he ends up being a flop, to me at least. I don't know how everyone else is going to feel about it, but the writing felt lazy. It didn't feel like a movie that was based on real events. It was just too much. I think Hollywood touched this a little more than they should have. It was kind of like a corny and not suspenseful. They kind of added that suspenseful music, but it still felt like corny and typical, red box movie, like you were saying. Um, but yeah, it didn't leave me asking questions. Like, that's what I like about their series. The previous movies is kind of left you like, okay, so what happened next? Like, now I'm just like, okay, this is over. Like, I don't have to deal with this again. The Nun was a cool character, and I didn't feel that she got that, or whatever it is, got that kind of send off or the proper story for it. And we didn't even see the Nun for the longest time. Um, when we went into the previous movies, we kind of saw the monsters. We saw a little bit more face to face, more premonitions. Kind of leading up to the big reveal, but we didn't have much of that in this movie. It was just kind of, I don't know, a lot of filler in like the middle. The beginning was good. We're like, okay, it starts out great, and then kind of filler, a little bit of suspense, and then that ending was okay, but it still kind of left me unsatisfied. Kind of left me saying like, is this it? But yeah, you won't see the villain for like the 30, 45 minutes of the movie, like face to face. So I kind of felt like most of the time the Nun was kind of messing, just kind of messing around, just messing with her
Playing
food.
hide and go seek.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, come on. I don't know. That's
Ye-
that's how I felt.
Yeah, with this movie again, it definitely doesn't capitalize on what the Nun could have been. Kind of feeling her presence in this movie. This story is kind of all over the place as far as its characters, how the characters act, and how we kind of finish with those characters. This movie stars Damien Bichir, Teza Farmiga, and Jonas Bloquet. If you don't know, the girl in The Nun who is working to be a nun, um, she is actually the daughter of Vera Farmiga, who is the wife in The Conjuring.
Mm,
So the wife is Lorraine Warren, so Ed Warren's wife. So in real life, Teza Farmiga is actually her daughter. So
God, it looks like her too. Now that I think about it,
yeah, it looks very
man, we learned a lot of stuff from this, like from doing these reviews. Yeah, because I
yeah,
actually
yeah,
think she's really pretty. She's a really pretty girl.
yeah.
Very
If
soft
they
face, and her
if
mom's
they
not bad either.
if If they really wanted to kind of do the whole prequel thing, I mean, although it's set in 1952, so she'd probably be much older if they made it kind of like that's her in the future now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, not a lot of stars in this movie. I mean, we just get those three actors and then kind of a very small cameo at the very end. But yeah, the story is, it was to investigate this nun that committed suicide. But the characters in this movie, I mean, they just make so many mistakes and it just becomes silly after seeing it happen so many times. Um this movie is not that scary at all. It's more of those you're gonna probably find yourself laughing more than being scared throughout the length of it.
Yeah.
The demons that are supposed to be demons or possessed beings are more like zombies almost.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. And
Um,
then
it-
here comes one guy, like, with a shotgun and just puts him down. Like, why weren't we doing that from the beginning? I don't know.
yeah, and then just the entire like setting and just the way it was filmed, it just it's so overly lit and it doesn't allow the movie to kind of feel more closer to its predecessors like Conjuring, which is a lot of natural light and just kind of puts you in the perspective and kind of lets
Yeah,
you.
totally agree with that. Yeah, definitely. It didn't have that feel. That it might have been the natural light. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's just and you can tell it's like a midnight scene. It's like 1 a.m. and there's still a bunch of ambient light in this area where it's in the middle of nowhere, which makes no sense. It's not by any city. So this overlit scenes that we get over and over just make it feel unrealistic.
Hmm.
While I was watching the movie, kind of made me feel like they recorded this at like the Fiesta Texas when it's like Halloween time.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I could see that.
Like the whole interaction with the demons and then slightly with the nun, but prior to that it just feels very cheap. And like I said earlier, this movie had a bigger budget than The Conjuring.
Yeah, it shouldn't be cheap, right?
Yeah,
With that
yeah,
budget.
yeah. So I'm not sure where they put their budget at. Really, I mean, there's not a whole lot of CG in this movie.
Not really a lot
Um,
of big names either.
exactly. So what they did with that money, I'm not sure. It might have been the flight cost to get out to Romania or something, but even that doesn't really make sense where all that money went. I mean, for example, the first Annabelle had a $6.5 million budget.
How much did that gross?
So Annabelle did from its 6.5 million, it did domestically 84.
Woo!
Worldwide, it finished at 257 million.
I mean, look at that. That's crazy. Like, I'm telling you, there's something missing from this movie, and this is in the numbers now.
Exactly, exactly. And what's funny is that this movie is probably going to get very close to that. I mean, it's just its first weekend being out, and it's already at 141 million
Yeah.
worldwide. So again, they're definitely not going to be stopping anytime soon with this franchise. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure they'll think of something. Because the way this movie ends, it's open ended in a way, but it's not to where it gives you an idea that they're gonna go on to a next one.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that.
but if they keep it within the universe, I mean, I'm sure they will. The numbers are definitely talking. But yeah, this movie, I didn't really like it. It's like fine at the very least. I don't think I could probably recommend you go watch it.
You
Um,
got if you got Movie Pass, sure.
yeah, and that's if you get lucky to get a ticket right
Yeah,
now.
ticket, yeah.
It always feels like you're hitting the lottery when you see that you can watch that movie when you want
When you
to.
when you when you get what you pay for, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this movie. Again, you're definitely gonna find yourself laughing more than being scared. And even with horror movies nowadays, how they rely a lot on jump scares more than actual visual scaring tactics. Even the jump scares don't really work. A lot of the characters kind of go against what their character kind of gets established as.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just a very mediocre horror film, and I think, in my opinion, you could probably skip this. Um, but if you're into horror movies and you just want to see another horror movie as you wait for Halloween to come out in October, which is getting a lot of good reviews out of the Toronto Film Festival.
Yeah,
You,
I think Jason's coming out, or not Jason. Is it Jason? No, it's Halloween.
yeah, Halloween.
Voorhees, yeah.
Yeah, can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to it.
Jamie Lee Curtis coming out of retirement.
Yeah, she's trying to finally put her brother down. So we'll see if
Yeah. Not
that
to get off
happens.
subject, but since we're talking about Halloween movies, I mean that's one I'm really excited for.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's gonna be I'm sure being it won't be shy at the box office either.
Hmm.
But yeah, what I've seen from the trailer, it's looking like it's gonna be a solid flick.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's part of like Halloween like history because I mean I think they're on like Halloween what 8, 9. I don't know. There's a whole yeah, the laundry list of that stuff.
I do know that I saw in an article that it's not canon to like the Rob Zombie one.
Oh
But
yeah,
it's canon to like the original one. So like the first one, for example, obviously.
I
Um,
forgot about that Rob Zombie stuff.
but yeah, that's gonna be exciting. Because other than that, I guess if you want to consider Suspiria a horror thriller, that's also gonna be coming out this year, I believe. So
Suspiria.
um, we haven't gotten the biggest horror release this year. Not much, but this one I think misses on what it could have at least somewhat been a decent horror film. But other than that, I mean, any last words before we talk about the some of the spoilers from this movie?
Uh, no, man. Let's get into the spoils. Let's get into the spoils of it.
Okay. This movie, if you're kind of trying to figure out where it sits in the timeline for this kind of universe they've created for The Conjuring, this one obviously takes first in the chronological order. So it goes The Nun, Annabelle Creation, Annabelle, The Conjuring, and then Conjuring 2. So again, this was the prequel of the prequels that we got with the Annabelle movies. With the story, the way it starts, it's we get that kind of weird intro sequence where we see two nuns walking up to the door that says God ends here.
Yeah, creepy.
And it's not too clear why they're going in there. You just know that one of them says, "Sister, we have to do this" or something, and then she hands her the key. And throughout that thing, I'm just like wondering what she's trying to do, whether she's trying to go in there to escape or go in there to obviously maybe find something.
So, from what I understand, the seal had been broken again, right?
No, right.
Yeah. So the blood of Christ somewhere, the nun should have had it on her, right? How did we find that vial later on when when the other three got there, when the father got there, Irene and Frenchie? They found it. They used a key. they opened the door somewhere away from that door they were just entering. That's where the crack was, I believe, unless the nun was going to go check it out. But I would have gone in there with the blood, be ready. So it didn't make sense, because why would you go into that place unprepared? Like, I don't know, something had happened to the other nuns, I take it, like, I guess these were the last two living ones. But I didn't that part of the story didn't make sense after I kind of broke it down in my head.
Yeah, it was so strange the way it was kind of structured. What bothered me about that scene though is they leave the door open.
Mhm.
What's even funnier though is that that door did not have a lock on it. So in this case, the nun could always come in and out and like kind of visit them, be like, "Hey guys,"
Yeah.
um, so for that whole God ends here thing, I mean, I would, if anything, that would be the door that has a lock on it. you know,
Yeah, seriously. Call a
it,
locksmith.
if you know there's evil behind that door, I mean, you would want that door to be locked so it doesn't come into your vicinity, this church. So that whole intro sequence was kind of like it was just kind of silly. It makes sense though why she gave her the key.
Mhm.
Actually, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Because that key was needed to open that area where the vase was in with the blood of Jesus.
That's what I'm saying.
So her handing the key, I mean, she was going in there to not suffer, I guess. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense.
Because I don't know if I did. Was there any vase in exchange, or is it only the key? I don't even remember the key.
The key, no, it was just the key.
Yeah.
So the key was exchanged. She said, "Take care of this," whatever, something. I think, I don't know, maybe maybe they realized it was too late. It was probably maybe the nuns were already dead. That big group of nuns in the church, because spoiler alert, we're always seeing spoilers. A whole bunch of the nuns die, and there's only two left. So I'm thinking maybe she decided it was too late. Let me, yeah, maybe not so. Maybe you're right. Maybe she just wanted to get rid of herself first. Maybe to go check it out. Maybe if the seal's been broken, or maybe it's something else. But there was no exchange of a vial. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just saw the key. So the blood they needed to close the gate was not with them at that time.
It's so strange because kind of like the aha moment that we get in this movie is that the nun that committed suicide was trying to protect the world, because in order for the nun to kind of spread, she needs to attach to a human being.
Mhm.
And that point, I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, sure. But then in this case, the nun could have just taken over the nun that she kills that goes through the door. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the nun that committed suicide killed herself to protect the world from being kind of consumed as a parasite by the demon that's the nun,
Mhm.
why did the nun just use the other nun to take host?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that whole intro sequence, it could have definitely been scarier. I mean, I don't know if they thought seeing the nun's reflection in the window was scary at all, but it's didn't really work out there.
Mm-mm.
Um, Other than that, I mean, we get Frenchie kind of runs into that hanging body, and then he buries her. Um, Actually sits her down. He said he laid her down in that little stand.
And she stands up. That was creepy.
Yeah, she stands up and he's like, I didn't leave her like that. Um, Frenchie's character was how do we put this? He wasn't the most useful, although they try to make him seem that way.
Well, he was kind of integral to the kind of, he was the tie-in to the Conjuring.
Right.
which was surprising to me. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I remember that. That was like the first scene we saw when we started the Conjuring saga.
Was his actual scene that we see at the end of The Nun in The Conjuring?
Yeah.
Is it really? I'm gonna have to go back. I haven't seen The Conjuring in a very long
Yeah.
time.
It's when we kind of get introduced to them after something supernatural happens. They go to the guy who's teaching, which is I always forget their names. The doctor, give me a second, let me find his name. Do you know off the top of your head what his name was? I forgot what his name was.
Oh, it's I have it here. Ed Warren, Patrick Wilson's
Yeah,
character.
yeah, Ed Warren. He was teaching a class about exorcism, and his wife Lorraine was in the back, and they were watching, which was Frenchie. He was on the screen being exorcised because they had found him somewhere in the countryside or something, like talking demonic and talking like the Latin that he had a third grade education is what he was saying, but he talked some of the best Latin he's ever heard, and those upside down crosses were coming through his body and stuff. So that was Frenchie. That's how they tied it back into the original Conjuring.
And the Conjuring universe continues to grow.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, when they show him at the end on the carriage, it's like there's no way this guy survived. There's no way. And then we see the back of his neck, and we see that cross kind of.
Poking out, like imprinted. Yeah.
We see the cross flip upside down, and I don't know. That ending's okay, I guess. I would have liked to see maybe something else. I mean, maybe the actual girl that was trying to be a nun along the way, she kind of conceived the nun's parasitic demon. Because then it would have really made sense because the nun still exists in the Conjuring movies.
Mm.
So it would have been interesting to have an actual person that was trying to become a nun turn into the evil nun, versus Frenchie is going to be the host of this evil demon and kind of allow them to expand on that. So I would have rather see. Let me grab her name here. I would have rather see Teza Farmiga, her character, be the one that got possessed by the nun.
Mm. And I think I had low, like, I had thought she was going to get possessed after she had been marked in the church during that weird kind of when the nun actually came into the church and messed up all the nuns praying to try to keep her imprisoned. Um, she had gotten marked, like he carved a pentagram in her shoulder. So I was like, oh well, that's a mark. That's a mark of a demon if I've ever seen one.
Exactly.
So maybe maybe it would have gone that route, and then it just kind of took a left turn and went with Frenchie. Didn't get it.
This story is it's just so chopped up and
Yeah, you need a Venn diagram for this plot, man.
because if the point of the movie was to prevent the nun from going out to the world, why would they have shown the nun visit um why would they have shown the nun visit Sister Irene in the little house they were staying at, or outside of the actual vicinity, kind of floating around and playing tag almost with Sister Irene? So I mean, it just doesn't make sense. The kind of motivation for this character. I mean, the motivation makes sense. Is the father was sent out to investigate and stop this evil from happening.
Mm.
But what they're trying to stop is the nun from escaping and from taking over a human's body. So the whole taking over human's body doesn't really make sense because we can obviously see that she can go outside of that vicinity, that church. Um, so yeah, it's just all over the place. Uh, Go ahead.
I was gonna, like just to add to more all over the place. Now, like I had mentioned before, spoilers. Like I felt like the nun was really just playing with these fools, and what pisses me off is you're supposed to have this badass priest that has this reputation where they have to have a small meeting at the Vatican from the who's of the Vatican, just saying, "Hey, guy, it's bad. We want you to go take a look at it. You've seen like so much worse. Go take care of this." And this priest is probably the most useless character out of all of them. Frenchie at least brings a shotgun to the table and starts blasting people, and the nun is actually somewhat an empath or whatever she has, or what's that skill she has?
Uh,
She's she can feel things, like kind of like psychic but not psychic,
yeah, she can kind of
like an empath or empathic. I don't know, man, but she feels it and she can kind of like determine things. I don't know, but she has a power. And then this priest who's supposed to be this badass is so stupid and just gets thrown around and goes into stupid situations, and it just doesn't make sense. That was another one I just did not like.
yeah, the whole where he's chasing that little boy around playing hide and go seek
Yeah,
late at
how do you not?
night.
How do you know this is not a demon? Like come on, bro.
Yeah, him and Frenchie. Frenchie, what's funny about him is that he's so hesitant about the entire situation. He's like, "Oh, I don't think this is a good idea." He kind of hesitates agreeing to show them this place, and he just doesn't want to be there. And then with that mindset, you're like, okay, he's gonna be more stick. He's the more of a stick close to the group and not leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him kind of going on a little hike around the church, like at 12 o'clock at night, like nothing's gonna happen. And then he runs into this zombie
of the
lady.
girl of the
Yeah,
girl who jumped off. Yeah.
yeah. She like hangs herself again on a tree and then falls on his body and kind of chases him down. Um, so like yeah, these characters just make a lot of dumb decisions. Um, I mean, if there's any scene that kind of sticks out, there was kind of two kind of. The one that was kind of creepy, which I kind of did like, was when Sister Irene is she hears a sound and she goes into the little the church area and she sees the nun's shadow casted on the wall and the shadow's kind of moving across the wall.
Creepy, fucking creepy.
That was a really good scene. I really liked that scene.
It was well done. Yeah.
Um, and then other than that, I mean, it was kind of creepy to see the nuns like with their heads all covered up.
Mm-hmm.
One of them though, one of the nuns looked very familiar. Let me see if they have her here on IMDb. Are they gonna have her? They gotta have her. Is it Charlotte? No, it's not Charlotte. It was the nun that didn't turn around when Sister Irene was trying to talk to her.
Oh, the Spanish one.
No, it was the black nun. She was like kind of light skinned.
Yeah, yeah.
She looks so familiar. She looks so familiar. They don't have her on here either. Um, yeah, I won't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah, she looked very familiar. She looked like the. She kind of looks like. What's her name? She kind of looks like Zoe Saldana, but she looks. It's not her. She looked like her though. I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
remember
trying
the
to.
name of her, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Other
don't
than
see
that, I
that.
mean, what do you think about the whole? There was no other nuns left. Like this was her imagination. Like, what'd you think about that?
Didn't expect it. I mean, I kind of did because like, how the hell? It was just such a weird scenario. One nun to welcome them. I don't know what kind of convent of nuns does that. It's they're very. I don't know. Maybe it was just that sect of nun. But the whole interaction is weird. Um, but I honestly didn't expect it. I wanted to expect it, but no, I didn't expect that. It was kind of surprising that whole interaction was just like a memory or something.
Yeah, because I mean, who? If this was her imagination the entire time, what was causing it? You could assume it was the nun. But if it was the nun, and in that case, why didn't she just make them see a bunch of other things while they were trying
Mhm.
to stop her? So, um, I feel like they kind of threw in a lot of small twists just for the sake of throwing in twists.
Mhm.
Because other than that, I mean, this film just doesn't really work at all as far as what it's trying to do. Also considering that this is one of the scariest characters from the Conjuring line, every single time you see either her painting in the wall in a very dim room, I mean, you kind of feel like she's in that room, obviously, and then she has those, yellow eyes that stick out from the painting. And I mean, I would have imagined they would have made their essentially, we'll say, boss of their storyline. We'll say this is the Thanos of the Conjuring universe.
Yeah.
Um, they would have made her more menacing and kind of, yeah, just more scary. Um, I kind of did like her at the end. They kind of made her more dominant. She's super tall though. Made they made her seem when she comes out of the water.
Yeah, it was weird.
Those interactions were kind of cool between them, but it would have been nice to see more other than just her kind of slowly trekking forward towards the one of the humans. Um, what would have been interesting about this movie was, I don't know if it might have been a little cliche, but maybe making Sister Irene the key to stopping the nun. You know,
Yeah, maybe getting in her head, like, or making her aware that she's being watched or something.
like her being the key to kind of stopping this evil coming from like the evil reservoir, I guess, the satanic hole, the pit of death.
Yeah, because if it wasn't for Frenchie, she'd be lost.
Yeah, it took a guy with a shotgun to kind of save all things of all things.
Yeah, if that's all you need. That should be standard in that kit for exorcists.
Exactly. Um. So yeah, the way this movie kind of came about, the way at least it came off on the screen, it just came out feeling unfinished, and like I said, they threw in a lot of twists and turns to for the sake of just them being there,
Mhm.
rather than really contributing to the story. I mean, because what does there only being one done do for me or for the story? It doesn't do much. Just kind of like, you know, okay, she was imagining all this, but it doesn't really contribute to anything. If anything, she was just wasting her time the entire time praying there.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, again, it just didn't really work out, and I think they really missed out on kind of capitalizing on one of their bigger characters or one of their biggest characters in this universe they've made. But yeah, I mean, with that being said, and all the basically all the cons, there's more cons than pros in this movie. It's still gonna be very successful at the box office. It's already made its money back, and it's gonna have no problem making many more times than that budget they had for this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what people want. Like they want a scary movie, but I just kind of feel they're kind of robbing our money. Just it's just lazy writing.
Yeah, this one, it's actually directed. It's not actually directed. Again, it is directed by Corin Hardy, and he's actually going to be directing the Crow reboot or remake for
Oh,
2019. So I'm not sure how I kind of feel about that right now after watching
all right,
this.
all right. He gets a pass, man. He gets a pass. He's probably too busy working on the Crow because he was doing this stuff.
Oh, so this was kind of like his side gig.
Yeah, he wasn't paying attention. All right, he's forgiven.
I hope that's the case, because I mean, it's been years since I watched The Crow. I think I watched it. I was probably like 10 or something, and I watched it with my dad. We had it like on DVD.
It's a
So,
good movie.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of a if Nightwing was emo in a way.
Yeah, 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 totally.
If we if we had a very emo Nightwing,
Yeah,
that's what the
definitely.
Crow would be. But I don't know. I hope it works out and it turns out to be a decent film. After the Nun, though, we'll have to just wait and see to how that comes out, and hopefully looks somewhat good.
Yeah, hopefully.
Um, I mean, but other than that, I mean, what is? I mean, was there anything that kind of you liked, or something that you kind of stuck out and you said, okay, at least they did that pretty decent.
The Nun is. I still see that biatch in my dreams sometimes from that scene with her coming out of the painting with Lorraine. I don't know if you remember that from that Conjuring, but I think it was like Conjuring 2.
It was
But
Conjuring too. Yep.
the nun's a scary figure for me. Of course, that was the only thing I felt they did right was keeping true to the character of the nun. Nothing really changed. It was still scary face, scary eyes. But yeah, that was the only thing I enjoyed seeing was seeing the nun. That's probably the only time I got scared.
Yeah, I think they could have definitely gone away from these demonic beings they try to do and turned out to be like zombies. I don't think that even had to be in this movie. If they would have just focused on the nun, so if it would have been nun versus this trio, and
Hmm.
just kind of built on the creepiness that's already established. What's so crazy is that this character, the very few times we've seen her in The Conjuring and Conjuring 2, has been either through a painting or some type of picture on a wall, and that is a very chilling image. And for them not to kind of capitalize on that is it's a big loss, I think, as far as giving us a thriller slash horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird that if you can make this character that scary from just a painting in a very dim room, you should be able to do that with an actual presence of a nun in the movie. So yeah, there's just a lot of things they missed, and again, I mean, although it might get the worst reviews and ratings, um, that money's still coming in, right?
Yep. Some money talks at
Um,
the end of the day.
yeah. So again, I understand why they're coming out with these movies. It's like we just said, it's a major money grabber. It will make money regardless if you already have a decent foundation on these horror movies. Uh, but yeah, with that being said, I mean, like we said, you can definitely wait on this movie. It just doesn't meet the expectations you might think you're going to be getting from the trailers that we got,
Yeah, it doesn't do it for me.
especially if you're a fan of the Conjuring series. I mean, but other than that, I mean, I think that'll do it for this episode on the Nun. On next week's episode, we're probably going to be talking about White Boy Ricky.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, swing by next week, and that will be next week's episode. But other than that, where can they find you, Aaron?
Like find me on my Twitter. I think I told them a few times where they can go. It's cruise 6112, and you just drop me a little Twitter line. Let me know if there's anything you want us to check out. Before we go, Josue, you said you wanted to talk about something. I don't know if you forgot. Was it something you were going to talk about?
Do you remember what that was?
I don't remember. So I was hoping you would.
No, not that I can remember of. I
Okay.
mean, other than maybe request of any older movies that you would like for us to kind of talk about, but if it was today, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It'll come to us. All right. Yeah, that's it, man. Find me
Um,
at cruise6112 on Twitter.
you can find us, or you can find me at on Twitter primarily, at Video Josue on Twitter as well as Instagram if you're into that. But you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Entry for One, and then if you want to listen on any other platform, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Play Music. Other than that, thank you for listening.